Well, Yvonne, there were 11 missiles fired overnight into Kyiv and 2 unmanned aerial vehicles or drones. All were shot down. The worst hit area was Uman. There was a horrible strike there on a major residential building. That's about 185 kilometres south of Kyiv. You would have seen probably some of those terrible pictures of that residential building in fireballs. The death toll there is bad and rising. And also in Dnipro, another residential building was hit. At least 2 dead that we know of, a 3-year-old girl and her mother. So yet again, residential buildings are being targeted across Ukraine. 23 missiles in all, 21 were shot down, which shows obviously that, that Ukraine's air defences are now working better than they were before. But nonetheless, it only takes 1 or 2 missiles to get through to wreak the sort of tragedy that we've seen overnight.
Well, indeed, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says the attacks show further international action needs to be taken against Russia. What is he calling for specifically?
Well, he has said that Russia has yet again attacked civilians at night, calls that an act of terrorism. These people were asleep in their apartment homes and basically just blown up. What President Zelensky is most wanting is air support, is F-16 jets. A lot of the air defence systems have now arrived here. For example, the Patriot anti-aircraft battery systems have arrived. I think actually there's a lot more of the promised equipment has come in. A lot of tanks have come in. Ukraine, I think, is in better shape than people had thought. But of course, they're about to launch this counter-offensive. It's almost certain against Russia, so they want to be as well armed as possible.
Well, Kyiv says it's the first Russian missile attack on the capital in 51 days. John, what might this reveal about Russia's fighting capability and strategy right now?
Well, they're not winning on the battlefront, so Russia is now hitting residential areas. It's hitting the cities. I think these missiles, I heard the siren go off at 4 o'clock this morning, they're designed to instill fear and to keep people constantly unnerved. For example, things like aged homes, nursing homes, they're duty bound to try to move their old people to shelters. And to be doing this at 4 and 5 in the morning, it wreaks the sort of havoc that clearly Russia and Vladimir Putin want to do. But it may also be an attempt to get in before Ukraine begins that counter-offensive, which could actually begin any day now.
And China's Xi Jinping called President Zelensky this week. What difference do you think Beijing could make to the course of the war?
Well, China, it's the role of China which we're seeing emerging in this time. Of course, it's only recently that China brokered a deal of sorts between Saudi Arabia and Iran, between the leader of the Shia world, Iran, and the leader of the Sunni world in Saudi Arabia. Now, America couldn't do that because the United States has no dialogue as such with Iran, just like the United States has no ability really to deliver Russia or to have a dialogue with Russia at the moment. So it looks like this is all part of China's geopolitical game, of its rise of power, to try to take over the role that we've always seen the United States playing, those sort of diplomatic envoys. China has announced this week they're going to send a diplomatic envoy to the region here to talk to Ukraine, to talk to China, to talk to some of the European leaders and the European Union. That's a role that China's never played before. Now, the talks were 2 days ago. Clearly now, it hasn't led to anything instantly, improved. However, President Zelensky is clearly clinging to the fact that he now has this new relationship or this new dialogue with President Xi.
And finally, John, there are fears that there's going to be a heavy toll on Ukraine's cultural institutions from this war. How serious is the threat?
Well, it's very serious, Yvonne. About 60 of Ukraine's major cultural institutions now, museums and galleries, have been damaged or completely destroyed. Only a few days ago, the Museum of Local History in Kupiansk was hit. There were 2 women there, dead now, because that missile hit them. Now, the Ukrainians are saying they believe that this is a deliberate policy on the part of Russia to try to attack Ukrainian culture and Ukrainian history. So those 60 institutions have been hit. It will surely take a serious toll on Ukraine's cultural heritage. But at the moment, of course, their priority is the deaths, these deaths in residential buildings. The targeting of residential buildings is the #1 priority for Ukraine to try to stop.
John Lyons, thank you for updating us. Really appreciate it there. Global Affairs Editor John Lyons reporting from Kiev.